Hey. Welcome back to Them Brothers from Inglewood podcast. I'm Hoopy, your host, and I'm so excited to present a new and fresh topic on today. And it's very interesting because this is a continual, or I should say the sequel to the one we did prior. I'm going to introduce the subject in a minute, but I just want to say thanks for tuning in. I'm asking that you would like, subscribe, share, and ring the notification button as we present new content on a weekly basis. I'm excited about what we discussed last, and I wanted to continue this subject because I want to bring in actually, and you're welcome to do it too. I want you to add comments to the comment section. I want you to make suggestions. I want you to really, just give your input on this because I don't want to seem biased. Definitely don't want to be dogmatic, right? I want to be fair and I want to open the dialogue so that we can actually gain something, that we can find resolve in this difficult process that we're in because it has gone on for many years. I would say centuries. It's just really worse now that we're in the 21st century and we're at this cutting edge era of technological advancement and a lot of things are digital, and just we're in a different space right now, and the pandemic didn't help. It actually catapulted us further into this technological age, but I just really felt compelled to talk about this subject again. And so I want you to sit back, put your seatbelts on. This car is getting ready to get going, and the road might be a little bumpy, but I really think you're going to enjoy the journey. So let's together go on this journey. And I'm going to ask you again to please like, subscribe, share, ring the notification button so that you will know when we're airing next. I want to introduce the subject of emasculatory conduct and behavior. Emasculatory conduct and behavior has so much to do with our child development system, what it is, what it can be, and what we don't want to see it become, right? We want to have a healthy environment for children. We want relationships between parents, grandparents, siblings, aunts, uncles. We want that healthy. And I believe in order for us to really see that come into fruition, we have to be honest. We have to be open. We have to be accountable, men and women alike. And we know that when we talk about to this society, this generation, and when we speak of the term emasculate, it has many dimensions. It has various stages, and it just looks very, very, very displeasing, and that's just to be modest about it. But to emasculate means to deprive a man of his role or identity. I think the truth of the matter is a lot of times image and perception outweighs the reality of relationships. Relationships are developed. They're grown. They're actually, at a place where, we can see this thing forming. We can see the formation of it. We can actually see the breakdown. It's just, my goodness, it's a bad situation. And so what we want to do tonight is we really want to just simply have a conversation. about some of the things that, can be avoided, some of the things that we know and understand as what is healthy and what is unhealthy when it comes to the development of co-parenting. Um, it happens in marriages and divorces. I would just say in divorces, separations, and breakups. We see that the the men who are fathering children, and sometimes they're stepdads, and we don't know, some special circumstances where the biological father is not there, could not be there, may be deceased, may be incarcerated for a long time, and the parents are just not on the same page. Although, yes, he still has a right to ask that mother if you can bring the child to visit me so I can have some form of relationship with that person moving forward. But then that's asking, a great deal for a woman, a mother, to actually join forces or commit herself to bringing a child to a penitentiary, which is really not a positive situation at all, but that is the person's child. And my question to you, and you can please put it in the comment section: should a parent, a woman, consistently bring a child to visit their dad who's incarcerated? Is that fair, or is that not cool, depending on the age of the child or otherwise? Does age have anything to do with it? Does the infraction of the person who's incarcerated, does that have anything to do with it? Because I know a lot of times you're not going to, the mother is not just going to tell the child, oh, your dad is in jail for murder. Murder one, to be exact. It's first degree. He knew what he was doing. It was premeditated. I don't know if a parent, a mother, should disclose that detailed information. But of course, if the child gets old enough and is still interested in knowing their father and wants to continue seeing and visiting that parent, eventually the question is going to come up. Well, Dad, why are you in here? Dad, what did you do? And so it may be a conversation between both parents where they agree, we're not going to tell this child why you're in here. But is that cool? Is that right? And let's just say the child is 15. Let's say the child is 15 or 16, at an accountable age where they can understand the drama that has taken place. Do we tell that child? But I think, and I've seen situations where women didn't feel comfortable bringing that child to a penitentiary, yet alone a county jail. Some women were married, still married to this person who is incarcerated. Could have been in the early stages of the incarceration. Because, 9 times out of 10, when it first happens, the spouse, the mother is like, oh, I got to support my guy, and, we need a lawyer for him, and you're going to get out of this. And, naturally, emotionally, she wants to be there for him. And I think the more she finds out about what crime was committed, may have an impact on her passion and energy towards visiting them. Because sometimes guys are incarcerated and the girlfriend or the partner or even the wife realize, okay, when you were caught, you were with a woman. And what was that relationship about? And I don't really have your cell phone because obviously it's among your property, but who was this lady? So it builds from there. Maybe he was in error. Maybe he was out cheating. I'm not downplaying it, ladies. I'm not saying that's cool, but I think that those are factors in how women perceive moving forward that relationship with that parent now that you have a child. So I think it impacts her decision as it relates to that special circumstance. A man is incarcerated, that's a special circumstance. So we're not totally going to say or pile on about being emasculated from that standpoint. You're in prison. Sometimes you're in prison hours and hours away from your residence. So it requires traveling. And then, God forbid, if you're in federal prison, they move you around. So you might start out in California and end up in North Dakota or Maine, Vermont. So in the feds, they'll move you around, and that's harder and more difficult on a parent who may not even have the financial means to travel and visit, yet alone take a child or two. What if you got 3 kids by this woman? Now you got to get a ticket for her. You got to get a ticket for 3 kids, and you got to get a place to stay. You got to get a rental car. That can be kind of pricey. So that's why I consider it a special circumstance. Okay, so I threw that out there to create more dialogue, to really impact your response to our initial subject. So the emasculatory conduct and behavior of women is a serious reality. This is really happening. This is going on. This is on a regular basis. This is, all the time. Is the percentages outrageous? Are they high? They're high enough because it's not just in urban communities and families. It's not just impacting Afro-Americans. It's impacting other ethnicities too. There's a very high divorce rate among people, period, in the United States. It's one of the highest divorce rates that we've seen in the last 20, 30, 40 years. People are not staying married, these days, and a lot of people are not getting married. And so we got to understand this. And I noticed that a lot of people want children. They want a kid, but they don't want a marriage. They don't want a relationship. They don't want to have this partnership with the man. And since we're talking about emasculatory conduct and behavior, we have to understand that men are emasculated. Women emasculate their man from a lot of standpoints. Performance, provision, stability, status. A lot of these things are factored in when it really should not have the dominant or this should not be the priority of what makes a relationship work. I think it has everything with being a teammate and working together, even though a man who is married, a husband, is the spiritual head of his home, he's the spiritual leader of that relationship, and a lot of the last decisions go through him as the spiritual leader. But he can always defer. He can always say, well, honey, I like your idea better, and let's go with your idea. But at least she throws it to him and say, well, here's my take on it. Here's the pros and cons of this decision. And I think, I've reached this decision because of this. Now, I'm giving it back to you. It's in your hands. You do what you feel we need to do. And it takes a real man to say, no, I've sorted it through. I'm looking at my statistics. I'm looking at my concept, and I'm trying to take myself out of this equation emotionally. Your conclusion makes more sense. It's clearer. So let's try what you've factored in. And then if that doesn't work, we'll go back to the drawing table. Well, to me, that's compromise, and that's maturity. That's a man saying, I'm not ruling this relationship with an iron fist. I'm not being dogmatic, and it's not just going to be my way or the highway. It's now we're being sensible and mature about it. And that's what any relationship. Some women have greater strengths in certain areas, and vice versa. I don't think that we should throw out roles, because a lot of people, they don't like to be confined to roles. Well, it has to be a role, because even in partnership, I've been on many teams, athletic teams. I've been a part of professional teams. I had to go into meetings with staff, and just because I'm the chairman of the board does not mean that I have the greatest ideas, and I should just push the line and say, hey, I don't like what you guys are saying. We're going to do it like this. I think that's why you have a team. That's why you have partnerships, so that you can come together and make a sound decision collectively. I learned that you need a team. You're only as good as the team. And when the team loses, one person isn't blamed or named. Well, sometimes one person is blamed, but the name really signifies that organization, that group, that team. When the Los Angeles Lakers lose to the Phoenix Suns, they don't say, well, LeBron lost to the Phoenix Suns, or Anthony Davis lost to the Phoenix Suns. No, they say the Lakers lost to the Phoenix Suns. And I think we need to understand that concept and principle as it relates to roles, even gender roles. A male in his relationship is a male, and the female in that relationship is the female. It's no other way to look at it, even though we got a lot of different things going on now. We got transgender, we just have different set of rules, but you get my point. So emasculation, when you start to look at it in its adjective aspect, or in a noun form, we understand that emasculation has a different meaning, has a different spin on it. Emasculation, in terms of what it really means, is it means to make someone or something weaker or less effective. It makes someone or something weaker or less effective. And to emasculate a man in his relationship, especially between him and his children, is emasculation. And it's not cool. It's a poor culture. It's a poor display of judgment. It's unfair. And it actually shows the character of the woman. It shows your character and who you are in your core self, to deny a man based on how you feel about him. Maybe the relationship wasn't cool. Maybe it didn't work. Maybe he did cheat. Maybe he wasn't the type of husband or boyfriend that you desired. But look at this. You signed up for it. You agreed to it at some point. Am I condoning bad behavior? No. I'm not defending any man who participates in domestic violence, puts his hands on a woman, profoundly speaks negative of her, whether he's using profanity or he's using negative connotations, whether he is demeaning her or, bullying her emotionally, mentally. No, I'm not going to defend you. I'm not going to defend that type of behavior because that's not how we should be as human beings, and that's definitely not how we should be as men. Many of us did not have a positive model. I had a positive model. I have older brothers. I have uncles. Yeah, my father was in my life at early stages. And then I had two wonderful grandfathers. So I saw what it meant to be a man. I saw what it meant to, to treat a woman right and respectfully. So I was exposed to some fundamental truths, and I was accountable. I was held accountable to how I treated women. And I haven't been a perfect gentleman all my life. In my earlier adolescence and early adulthood, I had a lot of flaws. I was probably possessive. I was probably the type of person who was insecure at times of my relationship, maybe because of the things that I saw and transpired. Somebody breaks your trust, you're going to be leery. You're going to be insecure. And I'm not using that as an excuse, but I mean, as I was developing as a young person, I'm growing into maturity. I'm not mature enough to handle what I perceived as love or, it was probably more infatuation. But when I got to that place of knowing I want to be with this person, I care for this person, I even love this person, I was still developing. So I had my insecurities and things that transpired in those relationships weren't always kosher and copacetic, but I learned that they're still human beings. And they were just as young as I was, and they were just as immature as I was. And I had to grow through that. So when it was time for me to get married, I consider myself a real grown man. I was 34 years old when I asked, my ex-wife for a hand in marriage, and I went to her father. It wasn't just, she and I discussed it. I proposed to her and, it was like, okay, we good now. No, her father was in the home. Her mother was in the home. They had been married for 36, 30 plus years. So she also had a model. But what am I saying? I'm saying that you don't reward anyone for bad behavior, especially men. Some men were not taught how to be men. Some men did not see a positive role model. Some men lived their life through survival mode. They only knew one way to live, and they went for it. They went after it to try and sustain themselves. So when we look at how men are emasculated, we have to concentrate on the multiple ways that we are emasculated. I've seen, things, and I've experienced things that really had nothing to do with the child. It just really did not have anything to do with the child. How we were treated, how we are treated, it has everything to do with how she feels towards you. It's personal. And a lot of times it's almost like, for what? What are you trying to accomplish? You're hurting the kid. The kid is suffering behind your emotional scars, your unhealthy way of thinking, the way of living. It's in your conduct. It's in your behavior. Everything that you would like to see happen is not actually happening because you're concentrating on how can I hurt him? How can I get him back? How can I make his life, miserable, per se, rather than how can I build a healthy community for our child? Now, I don't want to put down the entire female community because it's not all women. I want to make that clear. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm not singling out anyone because this has been a large percentage of women who were thrusted into a situation and acted accordingly, okay? But when you look at just a couple of examples of emasculation, you got to look at a social norm. This is a social problem that we've seen in this particular area, which is rationalizing emasculation. You can't rationalize it unless somebody is in harm's way. Okay, so that's one aspect, to rationalize it. But then there's another aspect of racializing it. There are stipulations and there are courtesies that have been made based on sexual orientation, partnerships, relationships that may have not been approved of, the queer aspect and syndrome that people want to beat one another up and point the finger and judge and things of that nature. And a lot of times it has evolved into, oh, I don't want my child around that, or that's not, moral, and it's an immoral situation. It's, so now we're, marginalizing a human problem. I don't want to call it a problem. I want to say now we're caught up into a major decision. Okay. Can that be rationalized? Can you explain why this individual is no longer allowed to be a father to his child because of his sexual orientation, because of his lifestyle, because of his decision to move in an area that's comfortable and convenient for them? Does that have a bearing on him being a good father to his child? Or is it right for you to reserve the right as to allowing him to see the child? Who gives you the moral and governmental right to determine whether or not a man, an ex-husband, ex-boyfriend is suitable to have a relationship with their child? So that's, and please add this to the comments, because these are other conversations that derive from being emasculated as a man. And we know that there are lesbian women who the ex-boyfriend or the ex-husband develops an issue against her. Okay, maybe that's not. It's similar to being emasculated, but when we talk about emasculated, it speaks to the male gender. But then there's something else woven into this term, which it's used in a feministic sense. So there are some feminism that's attached to this behavior as well. Some men that may have alternative lifestyles may feel the wrath on their end, and then there are some women that have alternative lifestyles that straight men or heterosexual men propose an issue with her. Well, I don't want Karen around that, and she's too young to understand, this situation, blah, blah, blah. I just think these are very important issues and conversations to have, because it's still no legitimate excuse to keep that child out of that other parent's life. Like I said, if they're not in harm's way, if they're not a threat, if they're not exposing that child to anything detrimental to their safety, their well-being, I believe they have a right to be in that child's life. We're not the judge. We're not here to judge anyone based on their decisions, because now decision making has a consequence, an outcome. I get that, but I'm talking about judging people, judging human beings. We don't have the authority. We don't have the right. We don't have the the privilege of judging anyone, because we got to look in our own backyard. We got problems and issues in our own life. Some of us, we have, issues with integrity, character. So we're not going to just limit a person's sexual orientation to how well they can parent a child. Their child is still their child. So that's something to talk about. That's something to discuss. That's something that we need to table and go further into as to what you deem as a detriment to child development. I know some people who are challenged by these special circumstances, these situations. Does that make that queer person or that person with an alternative lifestyle less responsible, less capable of loving and nurturing and caring for their child? You got to add this to the list of stereotypes and judgments. I just don't believe that you should be so insensitive as to keeping a man out of their child's life. I just, like I said, we already know, if you're a danger to the child, if you have a serious problem where you can't keep your hands off of a person, you're a threat from a domestic standpoint, yeah, you stay away. You go somewhere and kick it. You go somewhere and get you some help. Because I'll be the first one. I'll tell my sisters, don't have that guy around your kids. I don't care if he is a daddy. If he got issues where he's influenced by drugs, alcohol, poor judgment, hey, think about the safety of the child. My niece, my nephew, think about that. So I just think that this is a real discussion to have. And I didn't mean to spin it in that area of, sexual orientation, because that's not really the factor. The factor is a man being emasculated by his woman. to be denied and to be challenged or hindered in a way to where he is not effective in that child's life. So please don't take it as a knock, or I'm taking shots at anybody, because I'm not. Because I love everybody. I love all people. I may not condone murder and things that people do in a demonstrative. I can't condone that. I mean, if you a murderer, I'm gonna love you, but I'm gonna love you in a way to where we can pray for each other or something. I don't have to go and eat dinner with you, but yeah, I mean, when people have those kind of problems and character flaws, social norms, yeah, I'm gonna pray for you more so than go try to hang out with you. You might have a hook knife in your back pocket, planning on cutting my neck or something after dinner. Like what y'all having for dessert? Well, I'm having him for dessert. I'm gonna cut his throat. But you know what I'm saying. I'm not trying to downplay the reality of one's poor character, because that has a lot to do with who that person is. And I just think that yes, I'm getting very passionate about this because it just needs to stop. We need to do a better job of our conduct and corporately coming together. And as I forestated, there are special circumstances. Everybody's situation won't be the same. I'm not saying that. But generally, fundamentally, we should be responsible parents and making sure that both parents are in that child's life to a large degree, so that that child will not experience any more trauma or drama that they already have. So, it's been great. Subject's been awesome. Thank you so much. This car is coming to a stop. And it's been a glorious ride with you to talk about this very important subject and reality. And together, we can work through it. Together, we can find resolve. Together, we can be a healthier community if we just talk, if we just come to the round table and have a discussion. So I am really excited, yet I'm passionate towards assisting our young people, our children, into developing and reaching their potential. We want our kids to reach their potential. We don't want them to be stagnated in their progress. We don't want them to have bad relationships with their friends, with their peers. And when it's time for them to date, when it's time for them to, settle down and one day get married and consider having a family, we want our young people to have the fundamental tools and the information to help them become successful. We also, as parents, we got to work on ourselves. None of us are too old to learn how to do better. None of us are at a stage where we can't make a sound decision for the betterment of ourselves and those that we share this life with. All right? So, thanks again. Lastly, like, subscribe, share, ring the notification button so that you will know when we're airing next. And so look forward to a live. I have to do a live. I need to do a live. I thought I was going to go on live today, but time just won't permit it. But hey, stay tuned. Them Brothers from Inglewood podcast. I'm Hoopy, your host. Thank you for everything. Continue to follow us and tell someone else about this platform. We'll greatly appreciate it. Take care. Peace.